Joyful Journeyer. Welcome to the show. I'm Anita Adams, your host, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Leonardo Ramil as we explore his new book, You're Perfectly Whole, You Just Forgot. Before we dive into this conversation, let me tell you a little bit more about this interesting man. Leonardo is someone whose life has been filled with adventure, achievement, and exploration. He's traveled extensively, run with the bulls, skydived, hang glided, completed an Ironman, and even had the opportunity to meet with Winter Olympians at the White House. He's also an entrepreneur, a foodie, a satirist, and someone who deeply values time spent with family and friends. And beneath all those experiences is a deeper journey, the journey inward. Raised Catholic and later exploring his faith through non-denominational Christianity, Leonardo's path eventually led him to A Course in Miracles, which became a foundational influence in his understanding of love, forgiveness, and our innate wholeness. Through his own experiences, Leonardo came to recognize a peace that exists beyond our circumstances, a peace that he believes is available within all of us. Today, he shares these insights through his mindfulness coaching, his teaching, and now through his book, You're Perfectly Whole, You Just Forgot. Leonardo, I'm really looking forward to exploring this idea with you today that perhaps the peace, love, and wholeness we spend so much of our lives seeking are not something we have to find, but something that we have to remember. Welcome, Leonardo.
Nita, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to being on and sharing ideas and sharing our journeys because there's so much alike and where we've led and where we both ended up. And so super excited about sharing the message and sharing the good news. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. I know when I first read your book, I'm like, oh my God, I have to have a conversation with this man. We had the same message that we're trying to put out into the world. There's so many parallels, and yet you come at it from a different perspective, different language. And I think that's really interesting too, because I think your work will touch lots of people, and hopefully my work will touch lots of other people. And there are so many people right now that are putting this message into the world of remembering and understanding of who we really are and love and all that. So to me, I find that really exciting that there's more people
Yeah.
with trying to bring this message forward. And I really appreciated your work, your writing, and I'm just really excited to have you here on the Joyful Journey.
Oh yeah. And a joyful journey of love, right? I in your book how you are led to discover the love within yourself, right? And so and that really resonated with me because after in the book I share how my journey with A Course in Miracles and how it took me 3.5 years to read it every single day, 3.5 times. And then one day I woke up and thought, wait a minute, if I read this from solely from the context of love, it all makes sense. And wait a minute, not only does this book make sense, if I begin to see love as the only choice and the only reality, my whole world makes sense. And that was really what had me want to share this truth, this knowledge. And so it really just gets me excited. I always had the idea of writing the book, and it took a while, but then one day in divine timing, I think as you describe it, that uh, it just happened. So here we are. Here we is.
Um, so I've read, I am reading A Course in Miracles, and have been reading it for months. It's a
Yeah.
very, for me, it feels really dense
Mm,
and
mm.
powerful. So I was really interested that you read it 3 times. Is that because you felt like you needed to sit with these concepts to allow them to internalize, or was there something that you felt like that you were striving for or grasping to
Yeah.
grab onto? that finally landed?
Yeah. So I, for me, I read it and I've always been in a position to where I've always made my own time in regards to work. But when I read it, there was something there. I knew that there was something there. And when I first picked up the book, I thought, oh, well, I'll perform a miracle and I'll see a unicorn and I'll be able to make rainbows. And it was not it. And so little did I know that the miracle was really just me remembering the truth and the love within myself. And so if I'm able to perform that miracle, not just within myself, but perform that miracle in others to call forth the remembrance of the love and the worth and the wholeness of every single person, then a miracle is absolutely performed. So back to you asking like, why did it take that long? As I was able to just sit at home with one paragraph for like half an hour, I remember just thinking, wow, I've spent a long time on this one paragraph, but some is happening and I don't know. I do describe a little bit. It was just little steps, right? The little nudges by the Spirit that just gives us understanding. But the big one was when the Spirit presented to me and said, "Well, who are you without a body?"
Hmm.
And I was all, "Body? What do you mean by that?" And it really got me to pause and really had me be open to, wait a minute. Because what led to that was that I had come home one day and I was feeling just off. And I was off and I didn't understand why. Because I had, on the most part, what the world would say, everything going on. You know, I had a great job, my family, relationships, everything was just moving and grooving. And then I remember just going, why do I feel like something is missing? And I was on my knees and I was like, this doesn't make sense. God, I have all this stuff. And then the whisper was, why did you think those things were going to make you happy? We're just going, oh, wait, what? You know? And it even brought me back into my childhood. I recalled an election that I had won. And I even recited that. I said, "Guy, even in 5th grade, I won this election." Like, things have been going on. And once again, he's like, "Well, you came up with that. You came up with that idea that that would make you happy." And then this is the thing that brought me to tears. The Spirit asked me, "Did you think that I forgot the people that lost to you?" You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, and I was just so humbled. I'm like, "Of course not." And then I realized I was probably just too weak to lose. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't strong enough to lose. So, but yeah. So, yeah, just little nudges by the Spirit. And 3 years later, I was able to understand how love has always been there, has always been faithful. And it's love is the answer, to sound like that flower child, right?
No matter the question, love is the answer.
That
Yeah.
is the answer, isn't it?
Yeah. I have to keep coming back to that. It's remembering self, but remembering that truth, right? Keep coming back to love is the answer no matter the question. Love is the answer no matter the question. And that's not necessarily easy, especially when we're being challenged or we're in difficult situations. Yeah.
I know. But you hit the nail on the head, just trusting. I have a chapter in the book about prayer and meditation, and I boldly claim that every prayer is answered. And it's answered because God says, like, yeah, set it in love and you'll be fine.
Mhm.
And it's trusting that.
Yeah, and trust is something I've been sitting with a lot today. I'm in the process of writing some stuff because I feel like I've forgotten to trust again. And I something really popped for me in your book. You asked your students whether they believe love is the greatest power in the universe, and pretty much everyone says yes, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yet we struggle to choose love when we're afraid or hurt or we're triggered. So the question to you is why? Do you think there is such a gap, and it is a gap between what we believe and what we actually trust in difficult moments?
Yeah. Well, we've been indoctrinated to believe things at a very young age from our parents, our culture, our teachers. And those are the things that we um, place in our brains. And I think our minds, I'm not a neurologist or have a background in that, but I do believe that our brains are made to create systems and habits for us to rely on. So those are the things that we hold on to. That's how come it's very hard to walk into an ice cream store and for me not to order anything but chocolate. You know, and there's 1,000 we grew up with 31 flavors, right? Now there's thousands. And so, but I really force myself when I go to restaurants and when I go to ice cream stores to try a different flavor and open my mind to unlearning and rewiring. So when you ask, like, what is it about believing and trusting? Well, what we believe is something that we taught ourselves or what people put onto us. And that's hard to let go because I like my chocolate ice cream. But to trust love and to be open to that, right, is something that we get to remember. And that gets really exciting for me when I remember, hey, I have only been love and it's the only thing that is of me. And if I claim it to be the greatest power in the universe, then why not be the highest sense of self? Why would I deny that of me? Right? If we believe that love is the greatest power in the universe, the only way in which for me to act is to be love and trust it. And so why be anything less? So
Intellectually, yes, totally get that. In the moment when we're, triggered or feeling hurt or feeling um afraid, what can we do to remember?
that's a um I I start laughing and that sounds so yeah, people think I'm kind of psycho, right? Like in the heat of the moment, then all of a sudden I remember, wait, this is not real. The only thing that's real here is the opportunity to love. And when I begin to realize that, oh, everything is an opportunity to love and is not what I have um, perceived and judged before me, then I'm gonna trust love because it's always been faithful and it's always been the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Everything is an opportunity to love. So it's like we just have to remind ourselves. And for you, laughing can be a little bit of a cue to help bring you back into remembering. I suppose that's what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah, laughing allows me to realize the drama before me is so ridiculous, and it's a construct of my mind. Like I think I've realized when I was in my 20s, and I'll explain why, is that you and I and everybody can go through the same experience and have 2,000 different perceptions as to what had happened. We can walk out and say, "Hey, the sky's blue." You're like, "No, it's kind of gray," or it's kind of greenish blue, or everybody has a different perception. And when I had a sister that passed away over 30 years ago, and we would walk the ward at UCLA Medical Center, and everybody was terminally ill. And it would always amaze me that everybody the doctor said weren't going to make it, but each person was handling it differently.
Uh-huh.
And my sister had an acceptance and peace about it, and always told me, "I just want you to know I'm fine. Are you fine?" And I would be like, uh, "Yeah." I felt like I felt the pressure, right? Like if you're fine and you're the one going through it, then I am too. But when we walked around the ward, there were people that were absolutely depressed. There was people that were just joyful, that were just like, "Oh, on to the next adventure." And so, in regards to, my laughing is because it immediately makes me realize like, "Oh, this is a choice. Drama is a choice. What is before me is I'm not saying that it's not happening, but how I respond to it and how I, um, remember love through it is really is what I want to take as my responsibility.
Yeah. Great. Great. It is a choice. It is a choice.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to come back to trust. I want to focus on this a little bit. You talk about making different choices, like choosing pistachio instead of chocolate, or, how is that connected to trust? What is that? What is the correlation there? Is it just opening yourself up to experiencing things that we're not, oh, we haven't experienced before? Is that what you're trying to?
Well, like in your book, and you had very clearly, and I hope I do with my book as well. We only choose from one of two contexts. So what's either going to be love or fear. And so be very clear that uh, uh, my my belief is that if we are choosing to having the discernment of where that's coming from, perhaps for me allows me to know what I'm trusting. So if I'm still choosing, I'm still out of whack, then what I'm choosing is the physical. Like, I believe that fear and ego are always tied to the physical realm, which is time, money, and circumstance. I'm very clear that people's drama and stress are always of those three: time, money, and circumstance. But if I trust something that's eternal, that cannot be seen, that is everlasting, that can only be equal to love, then that has always been faithful to me in regards to having peace and joy. So, so that's what I'm trusting. And I think that what it is what I hope to be sharing is trusting that love, trusting that experience, and trusting like, hey, I'm done with trusting time, money, and circumstance, because by the time I acquire and attain those things, I'm looking for the next time, money, and circumstance. But what's cool about trusting love, it is so infinite. And I realize that it's always something that I possess, and it's something that everybody else has. And
Mhm.
it's constantly expanding. And I love that in the midst of it being eternal and omniscient and always there, I get excited about um, not just experiencing it, but sharing it. And I'm not sure, I get accused so much of talking in the abstract, but it's hard to articulate something that is indescribable.
Yeah.
And so much of the journey that I try and um, invite people to is experiential.
Okay. Experiential, and maybe this is where, and I don't want to simplify things too much, but I do like the ice cream analogy, because I always choose pistachio, and if they don't even
That
if
is
they
so funny.
don't have pistachio, I don't even try anything else. I move on to, somewhere else. Um, and I've always thought, well, it's because I love pistachio, but maybe it's a fear of not enjoying something as much as what I already know. So I'm preventing myself from having the experience
Yeah.
of something new. Um, but if I trust love,
Yeah.
then I can lean into the experience of something I don't know. Is that oversimplifying what you're?
No, yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Let's do, if you don't mind, a quick little exercise.
Yeah.
Anita, chocolate or pistachio?
Pistachio, 100%.
Why?
I love the nutty flavor. I love it. I love it. It makes me happy when I put that in my mouth and I know it's just going to be amazing. And yeah,
Mm, absolutely. Anita, chocolate or pistachio?
pistachio.
Okay. Why?
It's just so good.
Yeah, and I get it. One more time. Anita, chocolate or pistachio?
Okay, I'll try some chocolate.
Why?
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Now because I feel like I'm choosing wrong.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's what I felt like, oh, I'm supposed to choose chocolate.
Good to notice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Um, the freedom to love and to know of its beingness is realizing that chocolate and pistachio really are two neutral events.
Mm.
And, like when I ask you why, you're like, oh, you go back to your history, right? Like, oh, it's creamy, it's nutty, it's like everything. I laughed when you said pistachios because pistachio has been my new flavor too.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
I'm like, oh my gosh, we're meant to be chocolate and pistachio. And so, but when it's powerful when people say, when they ask you, chocolate or pistachio and they ask you why, and being powerful enough to say, because I choose chocolate.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So
Mm,
how awesome that we get to have the faith to be like, when people ask, like, why love? Because I choose it.
that's
Just
beautiful, Leonardo.
flows open, right? The
Yeah,
possibility, infinite possibility. I don't have
right.
to, yeah,
It's nothing's wrong. It's just what you choose.
exactly. Yeah. So next time someone asks chocolate or pistachio, you say strawberry. Because I choose strawberry.
I
And
love it.
and may it rest in love, right? That's
Yeah.
the message is like, I choose this, and may the context of choosing be from love.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I did, where I went to, oh my God, I'm being wrong.
Yeah.
I gotta choose. I've got to choose something else because that's what I'm supposed to do. Hmm.
For
But
boring.
there's a little lack of trust that was happening there.
Yeah. And then we choose from our, once again, remember we talked about wiring of our brain. You chose historically. I can trust pistachio. I know it's creamy. I know it's nutty.
Right.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thought was, well, Leo's asked me this 3 times now. I must be wrong.
Get to notice, right?
No, that is something to be aware of. So thank you for that exercise. And that brings me to something you kind of touched on, and we're talking a little bit about it right now. Is the unlearn principle. Your message is really beautifully simple, and it's we are already whole. That the journey is not about becoming someone different, it's about remembering what has always been true. So why do you think this idea is so difficult for us to accept? And what do we need to unlearn in order to remember our wholeness?
Yeah. So, um, in the book, the first three chapters are very foundational. I talk about one, taking on the possibility of just knowing your truth, right? That you're whole. Take that on. You may not believe it right now, but just take it on as a possibility. The next one is um, being open that there's something greater than what you know. For me, it's God. Um, for people, it's spirit, it's universe, source. And the third thing is trusting of those two, that love is the context and the energy from which it all runs from. So the next five chapters in the book are about, so when you're asking about what is it about unlearning, and what can we do, I have five practices that came out of the class that I taught for over a decade. And they were questioning everything. They were unlearning judgment. They were sharing the good news. Like a lot of, I always tell people, like, when in doubt, focus out. Like if you're up against it, a lot of dramas is like, just stop thinking about your drama and just focus on perhaps loving someone else and calling forth their love. The other one's prayer and meditation. And the other one is it, you think I would remember these things if I wrote the book. And yeah, and the other one is, neutralizing your circumstance that you and I had talked about. Neutralizing, there's no big difference between chocolate and pistachio. They're both neutral events. But so you asked how to unlearn. Um, I believe that when someone in faith embraces the thought, like, my wholeness and love has always existed, and I begin to gather the evidence that this is true, because when I'm in that space, things are easier, they make sense, I'm more at peace, I'm joyful, I'm laughing. And so when that happens, these five practices that I just shared are the things that I invite people to do, to practice with. So neutralize your situation, question everything. And you begin to do that. Like if there's drama before me, I'm like, oh, I can neutralize that because I put all the energy to it. Oh, wait a minute, I'm feeling rocked here. Let me question, what do I think that I'm getting here? Right. Um, I'm being rocked here. Why don't I just sit silent for a moment and pray and meditate? Um, I'm being rocked here. I must be judging something or someone, right? Um, and so those practices are, and there's so many other practices, but those are the 5 that resonated in the class often in what I share. So I hope I answered your question about unlearning and the little tools that are.
Yeah. Um, can you define a little bit more how to neutralize a situation?
Mhm.
Is that the asking the questions, is this true? Um, the inner examination, is that neutralizing a situation?
Neutralizing is being absolutely clear that you put the value and the energy in the situation.
Being absolutely
Yeah.
clear that you
Be
put the value.
absolutely clear, meaning like, okay, you and I go outside and we say the sky is blue and you say that it's really dark blue. Um, and it's amazing how people can argue about it, right? No, it's not. But when you realize like, well, wait a minute, uh, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You talk.
Neutralizing for me is taking responsibility for the drama that I put in or whatever perception that I have of it. And it doesn't have to, it could be drama or no drama, but being very clear that in neutralizing a situation, you create, I believe, infinite possibility, right? When we both let go that the sky is blue or really dark blue, we're open up to, you know what? It could be pink and us not even really realize it. But when we decide to neutralize it, we open ourselves to, I believe, infinite possibilities. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Yeah, you did. No, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that. And it's yeah, I like how in your book you talk about, it is what it is. It's almost it is a statement that we overuse in some ways because we're not really grasping what we're
uh,
saying with it is what it is. But if we can really land into the truth of that statement, it's
right,
and what it is for me and what it is for you may be
exactly,
completely different, and that's all right as well. So I like that. I like how it can take heat out of a situation and just bring you back to presence, actually, right?
right.
Being here. So
Yeah,
very good.
I share in the book the story, the Japanese koan of Toyo, who
Mm.
was brought by the master the question like, "What does one hand clapping in the wind sound like?" Right, and he's like, "It sounds like the geisha girls. It sounds like water going down a waterfall. It sounds like the locust." And he, spent years and years, or yeah, quite a while trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until he realized, like, wait a minute, the sound of one hand is the sound of one hand. Yeah.
It is
And
what
that,
it is.
yeah, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Awesome. You write about the differences between what actually happens and the stories we create about what happens, whether it's, a canceled date or multiple canceled dates, a family disagreement, or someone cutting us off in traffic. Our mind has this tendency to create an entire narrative in like mere seconds.
Oh, no.
How do we begin to recognize the difference between what is true and the stories we're creating?
Yeah. So once again, if we're rocked, if if our if we're not at a constant peace, we've bought into something else and it's physical. And if it's physical, then we've assigned the drama to that. And I'm not saying that it didn't happen, right? I'm not saying that it shouldn't affect you, but you are the decider. You get to decide whether or not it bothers you. I know that I'm really good about not being rocked when someone cuts me off on the streets because I probably cut off a bunch of people. I mean, really taking responsibility for the emotions and the feelings and just taking us just pausing and being like, how do I reconcile this to love?
Mm.
Everything just reconciling it to one. And what I mean by that, like true
Mhm.
love that is really always at peace and nothing that we need to strive for, nothing that we need to earn, nothing that to prove. And a lot of times we play this game with God, like, you love me if this thing happens. He's like, nope, you came up with that game. Right. He goes, I gave you everything. Yeah, I often say the story in class. I said, there's a story in the Bible that says that God gave Adam and Eve everything. And on the sixth day, he says, this is all yours and you are everything. And the very next day, they came up with like, well, what about this apple? And he's like, what? What apple? You can't, how do you add to everything? God said, hey, you are and have everything. And we come up with, well, I think this apple makes me happier.
Hmm.
And because God is so loving and allows us free will, he's like, well, go at it.
Yeah, enjoy the apple.
Enjoy the apple. I mean, you came up with the apple. Don't put it on me. Do not put it on me.
Right.
Like, yeah, I merely just told you you are and have everything. So, until you realize like, oh, I came up with the app. I came up with the perception.
I
I
came
came
up
up.
with perception. Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, that's my story. And you can have it. I always tell this to people in my class or anyone, like, you can have your story. And I'm never even going to judge you on it. But just be clear, at least take a moment and ask yourself, what is this story providing me? What am I
Mhm.
getting out of it? And when one realizes that there really is nothing to get in this world because you are and have everything, wow, I stop with the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that story to be right. I don't need for time, money, and circumstance to supposedly go my way. Those are all the things that we present to God and say, like, hey, these are my apples are called time, money, and circumstance, and I want them. He's like, well, that's you. He goes, I'm not in the realm of time, money, and circumstance. God is like, my time is now, which is eternal and forever. My currency is love, and my circumstance is once again just love. Yeah,
My
yeah,
time is now. My
yeah,
currency and circumstances are love. Yeah.
yeah.
When I'm faced with challenging situations, I try to step back and just ask, what would love choose in this moment? And that
Mhm.
often helps.
All right.
It always helps when I remember to ask myself that.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of the times I can get so caught up in the moment of disturbance, that inner disturbance, that I forget to ask that question.
But you had mentioned that love, because you said what would love do, but you said it earlier, reframing it as the opportunity. Like, what is the love is the only opportunity here. Wait a minute, I've got to change my mind about this. There's more of a call to action.
Mhm.
Like when you said it earlier, like the opportunity to love.
Yeah.
That's a big,
That's a
right?
choice, isn't it? The
It is,
opportunity.
but it's a
Yeah.
fun game,
Yeah.
right? The game of love.
What has shifted for you in your life since you've adopted this approach to life, to standing in a place of love?
I was realizing that love, joy, peace, and happiness is always there,
Mm.
regardless of what's going on.
Mm.
Yeah. In life, I, like everybody else, has had the world happen before me. And yet and I know of only love. And if I may share, in 2020, my family experienced a great, horrendous event. My niece passed away on the Gobi Bryant helicopter.
Oh gosh.
And so um, I had mentioned earlier that I had a sister who passed away 30 years ago, who always told us, like, we're good. We're all good. This is an adventure with God. And that was um, the very thing that we had to focus on that day was, can we trust love here? Can we trust what my sister Nini said? Like, hey, this is an adventure with God. It's all fine. And I remember being there with my sisters. I have four older sisters, and we're like, I know it went through all our heads. We're like, hey, Nini told us this. She said, it's all good. It's all fine. And so years later, I asked my sister, whose daughter is the one who passed away in the helicopter. I asked her, I said, how you doing? And she said it. She said, if it wasn't for our sister that went before us, she goes, I think I'd be crazy.
Hmm.
She says, but she instilled in us a truth and a belief and a faith that there's something greater. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel that too.
So yeah, I didn't realize I get so emotional.
Well,
Yeah.
it's real, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
That's
it is.
and and we can have these strong beliefs, convictions. We can have the joy and the love and still feel the sadness and the pain, right?
Yeah,
They're not exclusive. No.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Being truth.
Mm.
Living being truth. Living in truth. How do we really embrace that? I know that's a hard question.
No, well, but so the alternative is awful. When you say be truth or being love,
Yeah.
and if I'm not being love, then I'm not being my highest sense of self. Why would I choose anything else?
Why would I choose anything else?
And I've seen myself. I love, was it Young who just said like the balcony dance? I often see myself like, oh, what's crazy Leo going to do? Oh, and that's how come in moments like that, I'm able to just stop and be like, oh, at this moment, I can also choose love. It may not change the circumstance, but I know that love always sets things aright,
Mhm.
changes the trajectory, and I get to trust that. And I think that what we invite people to do is to gather the evidence. From this moment on, we invite you to gather the evidence of love.
Gather the evidence of love. I think we're trained to gather the evidence of what's not working for us.
Yeah, our history.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I want you to gather the evidence of your wiring. I
Yeah.
want pistachio. I want pistachio. It's so clear.
Yeah.
That's just the choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Gathering the evidence um of love. Can you give me some examples of how you've gathered the evidence of love in your life?
Yeah. um, I laugh because I share a story. One of my sisters, we're at it all the, she just merely needs to call me, and I haven't already always listening, right? But we were at it on my birthday, and she had said some things, and I said, hey, you know what? My birthday's in 2 hours, and one of our rules is that you can't disinvite a family member. But um, I said, I just want to let you know, in 2 hours is my birthday dinner, and I would appreciate if you didn't come. And she just said, no, you don't go. Inside, I was laughing so hard because I thought that was a brilliant answer. And so I got off the phone, and ego was immediately just like, should I call everybody? I'll change venues, like just going through it. And then the spirit just really prompted me to call my friend Christy. And I called her and I said, hey, you won't believe what Gloria just said. And she said, what? I said, well, I I disinvited her to my birthday and she told me that she's not going to. I said, what do you think? She said, Leo, this is the same story you've been telling me for years, so I don't understand what the problem is. And then she asked me, like, what do you want? And I said, I want to have a wonderful, loving evening with my family. And she said, well, don't you teach on this? I said, oh, and she goes, baby, it's gotta just, practice what you preach. And I said, thanks for the reminder. So sure enough, we all got there at the restaurant. My sister had a big cake in her hand, and I said, thank you for coming. It would have this evening wouldn't be the same without you. And so I trusted love. I trusted, you
Mm.
know, I didn't want to trust my perceptions and my judgment. I want to trust like how it was going to go and how I didn't want to trust the drama. Instead, I was like, you know what? I trust love. We had a great time at the restaurant, and it parlayed into my mom's. We played cards for like another 3 hours, and it was exactly what I wanted.
Beautiful. When I read that in your book, it related. I related so much to that story. Funny how our family can trigger us in ways that nobody else can. I so saw myself in that story. What I love about the story is that you recognize the ego through the help of your friend. And I love we need to have those people in our life sometimes to hold up the mirror for us and reflect back to us what we even teach others,
No,
and that's being reflected back to us. And it's like, okay, right. I need to let go of that story and choose love. And then love showed up from your sister in a beautiful way as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I love that example. I love that example. And it starts with you making the choice. And I think of the important piece for what I'm hearing, the important piece is the letting go of the ego part of it,
No.
and stepping back. So you can experience the love. So you don't have to be right.
Yeah. I often say, like, you can be right or you can be happy.
That's great. You can be right or you can be happy. I'll remember that. Thank
no,
you.
remember that. Right. You can be happy. Total new.
Actually, if I could share, a lady in my class, she had a 40-year relationship with her brother. That was just awful. Whenever they got on the phone, they argue. It was just, and they were in two different continents. And she told me, she relayed the story, and I told her, I said, well, you can be right or you can be happy. She said that just pierced her. And she said, she texts me like every year. She goes, you won't believe it. She'll take a picture. I'm with my brother. We're on a cruise for a whole week. Can you believe it? I decided not to be right.
That's so great. That is so great. So joyful journeyer, I challenge you listeners to walk forward today and choose love,
Mm,
but also choose to be happy instead of being right. See how things change.
yeah.
I'm going to challenge myself with that as well.
Awesome.
Choose to be happy instead of being right. Really nice. Love it. Leo, I'm really excited about your book. I loved reading through it. I identified with so many stories. I love the antidotes. I love how vulnerable you are in sharing your humanness, like
Well,
like just the choices that were less than perfect, if you will, and what you've learned from that. And I love that when our teachers, when people share their stories and we can actually see ourselves in the stories, in the troubles and the challenges, and then watch you come through that. That really resonates with me, and I know our audience appreciates that kind of vulnerability in storytelling as well. So thank you for that. And Joyful Journey, or pick up a copy. You're perfectly whole. You just forgot. You will learn some really beautiful things in there, including some, offers some great meditation techniques and walks you through some meditations that you can practice. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we wrap this up?
so it's pause, remember, experience. I thought it was very much like your look, listen, and learn. This is so interesting how we both came up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the power in the pause. When you're up against it, I invite people, just pause, just stop, pause, um, surrender yourself to remembering the truth within you, and then be very clear, and then give yourself the permission to experience that.
Love that. Yeah, pause. Remember surrendering yourself to the truth
Yeah.
within you. That's such a powerful expression. And then move into the experience of that. Yeah.
Is it is the most, we talked about it real quick, but um experiential allows for the rewiring of your mind to actually change.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today, Leonardo. It's lovely to have this conversation, to find another soul brother
Yes.
on this journey, our journey to our highest self, our best self. It's really, it's really a delight to get to know you. And Joyful Journeyer, thank you so much for tuning in today. Go and get your perfectly whole. You just forgot. And share this with somebody that needs to remember as well.
Mm.
Thanks for tuning in today, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.